What got you into selling records on the street?
Necessity.
Jim Georjiou, aka Jimmy the Vinyl Man, has a deeper knowledge base over a wider range of music genres than many critics I know. Jim understands the roots and branches of jazz, classical, avant-garde, folk, and even experimental Japanese surf music, all of which he brings to the corner of West 23rd Street and 7th Avenue in New York City's Chelsea neighborhood, where he has sold records for many years. A former resident of the storied Chelsea Hotel, which is just around the corner, Jim knows the minutiae of thousands of records, and he schooled me in the same. Jim has also seen more than his share of hard times in this hard knocks town, but he remains one of the most gentle souls I know. Sit back and listen to this man speak.
These were obscure B-level to almost A-level musicians.
That label, Keynote?
This is Keynote. This is Harry Lim's label.
About what year is that, you think?
Probably late 50s.
Okay.
Nice deep groove.
Cool.
Yeah. It's a very quirky record. And because it's so quirky, that's why it's interesting. So it's kind of like bop with a kind of a modern thing to it, but yet very quirky in terms of phrasing. So you have like some standards like Autumn Nocturne, Alone Together, but there's a weird reverb on this record. I mean, so it sounds like they're playing in an echo chamber. This is Mingus plays piano, and it's the legendary composer, bassist, actually just stretching out on piano with spontaneous kind of meanderings on tune. It reveals a lot about his compositional mind, the way he thought about putting music together, but stripped down on the piano. But it's a record that I would promote to anybody who loves Mingus. So, and you don't see it too often. So I'm talking about it because it is an unusual record. It is not a virtuosic piano record. It is a very unusual record in terms of musical ideas from somebody who's a master idea creator. Okay, so here we have Memphis Slim on chess from 1959-1960. The reason I'm coming to Memphis Slim is because a lot of this type of material has been neglected. People kind of overlook it. Memphis Slim made a lot of records. A number of them are very mediocre. I mean, he was a very gifted pianist and vocalist, and he came up through the tradition in a beautiful way. The issue is that some of the records are magic and some of them are not. This one happens to be a magical record. This happens to capture Chicago in a dark period, in an urban center, where oppressed people are living, and this man is playing in these South Side bar. And Studs Terkel did the notes to a lot of these records, and explains, sociologically what was happening in America at that time. This man is a champion of, he was bringing a lot of love to the table. It wasn't, there was a little bit of darkness in some of the music, but the music itself is just so powerful because it's the piano with a rhythm section and his vocals. And like anything, you have to capture the right moment. And this record does capture that moment. Okay, so this record here is the Tubby Hayes Sextet. Record's called Tubby the Tenor because this is Tubby Hayes' first record production on an American label.
Wow.
So he recorded this for Epic. He actually came to America. He was actually playing in New York. You know, a whole cadre of great American musicians. Exciting player. People who speak in not so favorable terms about him will say that he's such an over-the-top player that, you know, the solos aren't coherent. There's no structure. He's just literally just letting loose. But it's so exciting that you get caught in the moment. And a lot of his records are that kind of adrenaline feel, kind of bop, kind of, you know, energy. This is Paul Gonsalves' Getting Together record on Jazzland from 1960. And Gonsalves is an interesting character. I mean, he is probably one of the most underrated of the modern tenormen. And I think primarily because he was buried in Duke Ellington's ensemble for so many years. Until 58, 59 during the Newport Festival, when he took 27 choruses that changed the world, and you know, where basically the spontaneous combustion of those choruses with so many great ideas jammed in created almost a riot at the Newport Jazz Festival. Which diminuendo and crescendo in blue. Yeah, it's astonishing 27 choruses. I mean, because it's really considered the first extended jazz improvisation.
Oh wow!
And basically changed the game. I ended up being evicted from the hotel, the Chelsea Hotel.
Right, which is right around the corner here.
I was there 10 years. The owners, it was beautiful. The building was being sold. I was having health issues dealing with the World Trade Center, and my position was compromised. They got me out. Ended up living on a landing on 28th Street for a couple of years. So I originally sold records actually on 28th Street, very close to the landing. And then in a flower shop, it was selling books. So I started a following there, and it was great because it was a very ramshackle, like a 1950s kind of beat vibe. Buying records for me were buying lots of records. They weren't buying one or two records, they were buying 10, 12, 20. I mean, I had very good records and my prices were very reasonable. To pass that energy along on the street, I've given away a lot of records as well, and I priced other records accordingly based on how I've acquired the record. So I'm a record collector myself, and you can make someone's day by, you know, providing a record that makes a person happy at a very reasonable cost. New York is, in general, obviously is gentrifying, and you know, so people that have lived here prior have moved on, and new people have come in, and those people come from the suburbs. They're less, you know, I don't want to say they're less culturally inclined, but their habits and their attitudes about life in the city is no different than it would be in the suburbs, which is, it's very insular. They're not as open. They're not as, you know, the light's not real bright. It's kind of like this. So
They're dim bulbs, you're saying?
well, I don't want to portray. I don't want to be politically incorrect here. But it's changed in that the people have changed.